The gavel cracked like thunder, and the room forgot to breathe, as Maya Reed said. They erased him again, while the verdict echoed off polished wood, and old grief clung to the air like dust in a beam. "Noah Hale," said, "keep your head down," and his steady voice tried to pin the world back in place as cameras clicked like gnats around open wounds. Daniel Brooks said, "Breathe with me," and the warmth in his tone skimmed the surface of panic without breaking it. Maya traced the sealed letter in her pocket, as if it were a fire she dared not open. Evelyn Sloane watched from the gallery, with a stillness that hinted at locked rooms and rewritten memories. The bailiff waved people out, and the crowd flowed like water through a narrow gate. A phone vibrated somewhere close to Maya's heartbeat. Lexi Carter said, "Answer when you're alone," and the whisper slid through the noise like a blade under paper. Maya memorized the exits without looking. Outside, rain began to tap the windows like a warning no one would sign. Rain needled the courthouse steps as Maya Reed said. He would have laughed at this sky, and the words tasted like metal while thunder rolled over the city's stone face. Daniel Brooks said, "You do not have to carry it alone," and his umbrella tilted toward her as if shelter could be borrowed like breath. Noah Hale said, "We regroup tonight," and the plan sounded like a locked door instead of a map. The phone thrummed again, a heartbeat that would not belong to her. Lexi Carter said, "Alley on 3rd, 15 minutes," and the voice cut through the weather with reckless certainty. Maya stared at the sealed letter and imagined it dissolving to pulp in her hand. Daniel touched her elbow, and the simple kindness felt like a trap she wanted to fall into. Noah scanned the street and memorized faces the way she memorized exits. Sirens stitched the blocks together in tired red thread. Maya said, "I am done waiting," and stepped into the rain. Maya's apartment hummed with the weary quiet of old radiators as she stared at a water ring spreading under her half-finished coffee. The phone lit the table like a small tide. Lexi Carter said, "They buried a drive in storage unit B12, and the words came fast, daring her to keep up." Daniel Brooks said, "Slow is safe over the line," his voice a blanket stitched with threadbare hope. Maya pressed the sealed letter flat and felt the ghost of its edges in her chest. Noah Hale said, "Text me the address and wait for me," and the certainty steadied the floorboards. The hallway beyond her door exhaled a draft that smelled like rain and bleach. Maya said, "He deserved a witness," and the truth sat in the room like an unblinking animal. The phone buzzed again, relentless as a second hand. "What?" Lexi said, "Midnight or it's gone," and the deadline reloaded the night. The storage facility breathed metal and mildew as the clock kicked toward midnight, and Maya Reed said, "I hate places that promise emptiness," while her footsteps clicked like coins on concrete. Noah Hale said, "We look, we leave. We do not improvise," and the rules sounded like fence posts set in wet ground. The keypad blinked a tired green, and the corridor accepted them with a hollow throat. Lexi Carter said, "B12, end of the row," taped under the vent, and the voice in Maya's ear drew lines through the darkness. Daniel Brooks said, "Check the corners first," and his careful cadence traveled like a handrail. The lock rolled up with a spinal rattle. Dust swarmed the flashlight beam like startled thought. Maya said, "He wanted this found," and reached toward the vent face. Something metallic scraped behind them, light as a coin tossed to decide a life. The drive was small enough to swallow a life when held to the light, and Maya Reed said, "He left a breadcrumb, not a goodbye," as the metal tingled cold against her palm. Noah Hale said, "We copy it and vanish," and the plan tried to outrun the echo that had followed them from the courtroom. Daniel Brooks said, "Doors, watch the doors," and the reminder tugged the air tight. A soft heel struck concrete, too measured to be chance. Evelyn Sloane said, "History belongs to caretakers," and her voice unspooled from the darkness with the calm of a signature. Maya slid the drive into her pocket and felt the sealed letter warm against it like a second pulse. Lexi Carter said, "Move now," and the command snapped the moment's spine. The corridor lights flickered and steadied, pretending nothing had shifted. Maya said, "Then let's change the story." The pier groaned under Maya Reed's steps, wood swollen from decades of storms, and the salt carried whispers of unfinished confessions. Maya said, he always came here when choices weighed too heavy, and her breath fogged in the cold wind. Lexi Carter said, you think he left nothing behind, but he left pieces only I could see, and her voice was sharp but fragile like cracked glass. Maya touched the sealed letter in her coat as if it might burn through fabric. Daniel Brooks said, places hold memory, but they don't hold answers, and his calm tone painted safety where there was none. Maya's eyes trailed across the waves, seeing ghosts shimmer where light met tide. Lexi said, stop looking backward, he hid things forward, and her glare dared Maya to break open her grief. Maya said, I will not run anymore, and the wind carried her vow like an oath sworn to the sea. The cafe was warm but quiet, windows fogged from rain, and Maya Reed said, every seat here feels like waiting for him to walk through the door, as her coffee cooled untouched. Daniel Brooks said, memory is not proof, but it can guide us, and his gentle words wrapped around her like wool. Maya's hand trembled near the letter, and she pulled it back. Noah Hale texted, not safe alone, regroup at safe house. Daniel reached over, brushing crumbs aside and said, you need someone steady, not reckless. His eyes carried a truth that comforted and threatened in the same breath. On the mounted TV, Evelyn Sloan addressed reporters, polished, calm, rewriting reality, sentence by sentence. Maya said she bends truth like metal, and her voice cut through the clatter of cups. Daniel said, then we learned to bend it back, as his smile held both promise and warning. Maya Reed stood in her apartment, light from a single lamp spilling over scattered photos, and her eyes fixed on a picture of Aiden Reed smiling into the sun. Maya said, he never looked back, and maybe that was my mistake, while her fingers traced the frame. Lexi Carter said, he told me about shadows where truth hides, and her tone trembled, more confession than accusation. Maya closed her eyes, hearing faint humming, Aiden's favorite tune caught in memory's net. Daniel Brooks said, grief rearranges time, don't let it lie to you, his voice steady through the phone. Maya whispered, he deserved a witness, and her throat caught on the word. The sealed letter felt heavier than the photo itself, its presence pressing against her palm. Lexi said, he wanted you to fight, not fold, and Maya let the lamp's shadow fall across her tears like a veil. The safe house smelled of paper and dust, as Noah Hale spread documents across the table, lit by a flickering bulb. Noah said encrypted files on the drive reference corporate payouts, his finger tracing coded columns. Maya Reed said, he gave his life so this wouldn't stay buried, her voice sharp with exhaustion. Daniel Brooks said, information this dangerous draws eyes, we tread carefully, but his glance lingered too long on the drive. Lexi Carter said, the codes match street numbers, I saw them before, and her certainty cracked the silence open. Maya clenched her jaw, fighting the tide of guilt that pulled her under. Evelyn Sloan's name glowed at the header, tying the betrayal to the shadows she always feared. Maya said, she owns the courtroom and the streets, and Noah replied, then we change the battlefield. The bulb buzzed overhead, threatening to die with every flicker. The church was empty, but for candlelight, pews stretching like ribs in shadow. Maya Reed said, I come here every year, waiting for a sign, and her voice echoed small under vaulted ceilings. Daniel Brooks said, faith can be found in actions, not walls, and his hand rested on the pew as if grounding her. Lexi Carter said, he hid a page here, under the hymnals, and her whisper pulled Maya into the dark corner. A folded paper, yellowed and fragile, slid free like a secret kept too long. Maya said, his hand wrote this, every stroke is alive, and her chest tightened. The words, trust the one who remembers, curved across the note. Noah Hale said then, memory is both weapon and shield, as he stepped from shadow with watchful eyes. Evelyn Sloan's shadow lingered in Maya's mind as the flame guttered low. Maya said, I will finish what he started, and the vow filled the silence like a hymn. The warehouse smelled of oil and rust, every beam groaning with the weight of silence. Maya Reed said, he hid proof here, but the walls bite back, and her flashlight shook in her hand. Noah Hale said, "We stay sharp, in and out," his voice steady but lined with steel. Lexi Carter whispered, "I saw him here once, drawing maps in chalk," and her memory pulled threads through the dark. Daniel Brooks said, "Then we follow what remains," though his eyes darted too quickly, like a man searching for escape. Aidan Reed's shadow lingered on every wall, traced in imagined outlines. Maya's hand pressed the sealed letter close, as if it might shield her. Evelyn Sloane's reach seemed to hum in the steel rafters. Maya said, "Every secret echoes," and the sound of dripping water turned into a heartbeat no one could own. Maya Reed knelt over chalk drawings that mapped streets like veins, dust clinging to her coat. She said, "He planned this, every turn marked with grief." Lexi Carter said, "I remember him humming here. He wanted me to see," her voice soft as falling ash. Noah Hale said, "This is evidence, not nostalgia," as he photographed the chalk with a quick hand. Daniel Brooks said, "Memory is fragile. We should be cautious with interpretation," yet his eyes lingered on a mark shaped like a key. Maya whispered, "It leads to her," and Evelyn Sloane's name hung in the cold air. Lexi said, "Then we follow," and her stare burned with reckless conviction. The chalk smudged under Maya's hand, erasing direction as if the past refused to be mapped. The safe house grew restless, its air thick with suspicion. Maya Reed said, "Why does the drive read differently now?" as code flickered across her screen. Noah Hale said, "Files don't rewrite themselves," but his jaw clenched as if doubting even that. Daniel Brooks said, "It could be corrupted," though his tone carried too much ease. Lexi Carter said, "No, someone touched it, moved pieces where they don't belong," her voice fierce. Maya traced the sealed letter's corner, steadying herself. Evelyn Sloane's influence curled unseen, like smoke under a locked door. Maya said, "She has someone close," and silence burned between them. The bulb above buzzed louder, as if mocking their fragile trust. Daniel smiled faintly, too calm for the storm. The alley reeked of wet stone and smoke as Maya Reed pressed herself against brick. She said, "She has watchers everywhere, eyes scanning shadows." Noah Hale said, "We pull back now," but his grip tightened on her sleeve. Lexi Carter whispered, "That man's been trailing since the cafe," and her sharp gaze caught the figure. Daniel Brooks said, "Keep calm. Sudden moves bring knives," yet his hand lingered near his coat pocket. The figure stepped closer, hat brim low, silence louder than rain. Maya said, "He doesn't want to pass. He wants to wait," and the words shivered against the wall. The sealed letter throbbed in her pocket like a second heartbeat. Evelyn Sloane's invisible thread pulled tighter, weaving danger through the alley's dark veins. The motel room smelled of mildew and cigarettes, its curtains thin as secrets. Maya Reed said, "We can't keep circling shadows. The truth cuts through someone we trust." Noah Hale said, "Then test loyalty now," his eyes scanning each of them. Lexi Carter said, "I'll know if someone lies. People always blink wrong," and her confidence trembled with youth. Daniel Brooks said, "Trust corrodes faster than metal when you test it," his tone measured. Maya pressed the sealed letter flat on the table, as if to weigh them against its silence. Evelyn Sloane's name burned in every pause, her reach undeniable. Maya said, "If we fail each other, she wins before dawn," and her words fell like a gavel on the room. The bulb flickered once, twice, and went dark. The archive room reeked of old ink and mold as Maya Reed flipped brittle pages under a sputtering lamp. She said, "These aren't legal briefs, they're purchase orders," her voice trembling with discovery. Noah Hale said, "She bought silence, line by line," as his finger traced Evelyn Sloane's signature. Lexi Carter whispered, "This is where truth was buried alive," and her glare burned holes into the paper. Daniel Brooks said, "Evidence this raw could cut both ways," his calm tone masking something deeper. The sealed letter pulsed in Maya's pocket, as if urging her hand. Shadows swayed across the shelves, like watchers, leaning closer. Evelyn's face appeared in the documents, polished smile frozen in grainy photographs. Maya said, "She didn't just bend justice, she owned it," and the lamp flickered as if agreeing. The rooftop groaned beneath the storm as wind shoved at their coats, and Maya Reed said, "Why does every path point back to you?" Her words sharp as glass. Daniel Brooks said, "Because I never left her side," his admission slicing open the night. Noah Hale shouted, "You sold us out," and the wind carried fury across the wet concrete. Lexi Carter said, "I knew it, I saw it in your eyes," and her voice cracked with betrayal. Daniel spread his arms, calm against the storm, and said, "I kept you alive by feeding her just enough." Maya pressed the sealed letter against her chest, trembling with rage. Evelyn Sloane's invisible hand had been guiding him all along. Maya said, "You were the anchor we drowned on," and thunder swallowed the silence that followed. The flash drive cracked open under Lexi Carter's skilled fingers, revealing hidden directories like wounds reopening. Lexi said, "Encrypted twice, but this second layer isn't code, it's names," her tone fierce. Maya Reed leaned close and whispered, "Aiden's name is here," her heart seizing at the sight. Noah Hale said, "Then he wasn't collateral, he was the target," and the truth bit hard. Daniel Brooks said, "I warned her he was reckless," and his voice trembled with guilt more than defense. Maya slammed the table and said, "You don't get to explain him away," her eyes blazing. The sealed letter pressed harder against her ribs like it demanded release. Evelyn Sloane's network unraveled in lines of names, but her shadow tightened with every revelation. Lexi said, "She erased him on purpose," and the silence afterward was unbearable. The courthouse basement smelled of stone and damp paper, every wall sweating history. Maya Reed said, "He met her here, the night before he vanished," her voice cracking. Lexi Carter traced initials carved faintly into brick, whispering, "R was here," and her fingers shook. Noah Hale said, "If she erased him here, then this place is her altar," his words bitter. Daniel Brooks said, "We shouldn't linger," yet his eyes softened at the carved letters. Maya pressed her palm flat on the stone, whispering, "You left proof even in silence," and her tears wet the initials. Evelyn Sloane's shadow grew heavier, pressing the air tight. Lexi said, "He was fighting her until the end," and the words felt like a wound stitched open. Maya said, "Then we finished the war," her vow filling the hollow space. The confrontation spiraled in a marble corridor, the echo of footsteps trailing like ghosts. Evelyn Sloane stepped into view, her poise unshaken, and said, "Truth is written by those who last," her eyes glinting like polished knives. Maya Reed said, "You stole his story," fury sharpening each word. Noah Hale said, "And now we steal it back," his stance protective. Lexi Carter said, "You'll never bury him again," her defiance trembling but fierce. Daniel Brooks looked away, unable to meet their eyes, and Evelyn smiled, saying, "He was weak, and weakness has no place in history." Maya pressed the sealed letter against her heart, and whispered, "Then history will remember differently." The corridor lights flickered, as though the building itself held its breath for the war about to begin. The courtroom thrummed with tension, wood and marble absorbing every heartbeat. Maya Reed said, "This is not a trial of law, it is a trial of memory," her voice cutting through the hum. Evelyn Sloane adjusted her jacket and said, "Memory is clay, and I decide its shape," her calm words sharp as glass. Noah Hale leaned close to Maya and whispered, "Stand firm, she only wins if you falter." Lexi Carter scribbled notes whispering, "We'll show them his shadow still breathes," her hand shaking. Daniel Brooks sat at the defense table, eyes lowered, his betrayal thick in the air. Maya pressed the sealed letter against her palm under the table, feeling it burn. The judge's gavel hovered, unstruck, waiting. Maya said, "He will not vanish again," and silence seized the room like a held breath. The projector flickered alive, casting names across the courtroom wall, like a confession carved in light. Lexi Carter said, "These aren't numbers, they're people." She silenced, her voice fierce, echoing in marble. Evelyn Sloane smiled faintly and said, "Those are ghosts, nothing more." Maya Reed stood, her fingers stabbing at Aiden Reed's name on the list, and said, Ghosts speak louder when denied. Noah Hale, said the patterns tie back to her signatures, his voice sharp. Daniel Brooks shifted uneasily, sweat aligning his brow. The jury leaned forward, drawn by the storm. Maya pressed the letter against her chest, whispering, "You left me this map," though her lips trembled. Evelyn's eyes gleamed, unbothered, as if truth itself were a currency she owned. The judge demanded order, but the voices collided like storm winds. Maya Reed said, "The sealed letter contains his final words," her hand trembling as she raised it. Evelyn Sloan said, "Fabrication scribbled by a desperate man," her tone icy calm. Noah Hale said, "Let it be read. Let truth breathe in this room," his voice a blade of conviction. Lexi Carter whispered, "Do it, Maya. Let him speak again," her eyes burning with need. Daniel Brooks closed his eyes, as if waiting for a hammer to fall. Maya's fingers broke the seal at last, paper trembling in her grip. She said, "He wrote this for the day shadows swallowed everything, and the rustle of paper became thunder." The gavel struck once, but no one heard it. The words from the letter filled the room, ink carrying Aiden Reed's voice back into life. "Maya Reed, if they silence me, remember the ledger carved in stone. Remember Evelyn holds the blade." Gasps cracked through the jury box. Noah Hale said, "The link is undeniable," his tone final. Evelyn Sloan stood, calm as a queen, and said, "Dead men write what fear dictates, not truth." Lexi Carter said, "No. He trusted us with this," her hands clenched. Daniel Brooks whispered, "I gave her pieces, but never the whole," his confession sliding into the open. Maya said, "You all heard him. His words live, his truth remains," and her voice carried the weight of justice demanded. The silence after was more powerful than thunder. The climax broke in shouts, guards moving toward Evelyn Sloan as she raised her chin. Evelyn said, "You can't cage an idea," her voice calm, even as hands reached for her. Maya Reed said, "But we can end your reign of shadows," her tone fierce. Noah Hale said, "Truth has teeth, and today it bites," as his eyes locked on hers. Lexi Carter shouted, "He wins today, not you," her young voice carrying louder than the gavel. Daniel Brooks buried his face in his hands, shame a prison of its own. Maya pressed the letter to her chest one last time and whispered, "You live in these words, Aiden." The courtroom roared, truth clawing its way free. The gavel struck again, final this time, sealing the moment. The courthouse emptied slowly, echoes of shouting still trembling against its marble ribs, and Maya Reed sat on the wooden bench, as if carved into its grain. She said, "We won something, but it doesn't feel like victory," her voice fragile. Noah Hale said, "Victory is never clean," as his eyes traced the lines of the verdict still hanging above them like smoke. Lexi Carter paced restlessly, saying, "She'll twist even her chains into weapons," her hoodie damp with sweat. Daniel Brooks leaned against a column, shame carved deep, whispering, "I thought I could balance both sides, but shadows eat balance alive." Maya held the letter close, saying, "He trusted me with his last words, not a clean ending." The lamps above flickered tiredly, as if exhausted by the weight of truth. Outside, reporters shouted questions no one wanted to answer, their voices clawing at the heavy doors. Evelyn Sloan's absence felt heavier than her presence, a void thick with the sense of unfinished war. Maya whispered, "Justice doesn't heal, it just opens the wound to light." The safe house smelled of coffee gone cold, papers spread like scars across the table. Maya Reed said, "The files remain, but the truth inside them is jagged," her tone brittle. Noah Hale said, "They can't erase everything, too many threads now," determination grounding his voice. Lexi Carter said, "We keep fighting, because if we don't, he dies twice," her eyes flashing. Daniel Brooks, silent for a long moment, whispered, "Every betrayal leaves a debt. I'll pay mine until it breaks me." Maya traced Aiden's name on the files and said, "He should have been here to see this." Outside, sirens pulsed faintly, blending with city hum. The sealed letter lay open now, creased and worn, its words becoming their compass. Lexi leaned forward, saying, "She built a cage of memory, but cages rust." Noah tightened his jaw and said, "Then we become the storm that corrodes it." The room felt less like refuge, more like battleground waiting to spark again. The cemetery glistened under fresh rain, earth dark and soft as if grieving too. Maya Reed stood before Aiden's stone, whispering, "We carried your name back from silence." Lexi Carter said, "He never left me, not in the shadows, not in the songs he hummed," her voice trembling. Noah Hale stood guard nearby, muttering, "Rest should mean something now," though his eyes kept searching the tree line. Daniel Brooks kept his distance, hands deep in coat pockets, whispering, "Forgive me if you can." Maya brushed the sealed letter over the stone before tucking it back to her heart. She said, "Your words built the spine of this fight," her voice both vow and farewell. Birds stirred above, as if punctuating her truth. Lexi placed a sketchbook page against the grave, whispering, "You are remembered, even in my lines." The clouds shifted faintly, a fragile beam of sunlight breaking through, and the silence filled with something like peace, though not yet healing. The diner buzzed faintly, neon sign humming outside the rain-streaked window. Maya Reed said, "Normal life feels like fiction now," her coffee untouched. Noah Hale said, "We can't vanish into shadows again," his tone firm. Lexi Carter said, "He'd want us loud, not hidden," her eyes daring the night. Daniel Brooks muttered, "I'll never be clean, but maybe I can still be useful," his hands wrapped around a mug he never sipped. The letter lay folded on the counter, its edges worn, its words now lived. Maya said, "His memory is not a cage, it's a lantern," her face catching neon glow. Outside, a patrol car slid by, reminding them danger still watched. Lexi said, "Every truth we carry cracks their armor," and her smile broke the heaviness. Noah added, "Then let's keep striking until it shatters," resolve anchoring his voice. For a fleeting moment, the diner felt like sanctuary, fragile but real. The skyline spread wide beneath the rooftop, city lights flickering like promises both broken and kept. Maya Reed said, "Justice isn't finished. It never is," her eyes locked on the horizon. Noah Hale said, "We'll keep building from cracks," his voice solid. Lexi Carter leaned on the railing, saying, "He's still here, in every fight we take forward," her young voice carrying hope. Daniel Brooks said, "I'll carry the weight of betrayal, but maybe it can anchor me toward redemption," his words raw. Maya touched the letter, whispering, "Your words are alive, Aiden, and they carry us still." The wind pulled hair from her face, cool and sharp. The city below pulsed with sirens and headlights, a reminder of battles still waged in shadows. Lexi said, "Then let's light those shadows until they burn," her smile fierce. Together, they stood against the skyline, not finished but unbroken. The courthouse echoed hollow in the early morning light, its marble corridors washed pale by dawn. Maya Reed said, "Silence feels heavier than verdicts," her hand brushing the cold stone. Noah Hale said, "History never whispers, it carves," his tone gravel steady. Lexi Carter lingered near the stairs, whispering, "He's still here in the walls. I can hear him hum." Daniel Brooks said, "Every step in this place is weighted with ghosts," his voice ragged. Maya pressed the letter flat against her chest, saying, "He left word so the silence wouldn't win." The echo of Evelyn Sloane's trial still rang like chains behind doors. Outside, the city stirred, unaware of the blood traded for its fragile justice. Maya whispered, "This is where shadows first learned my name," and her words bled into the stillness. The safe house was stripped bare, walls breathing only dust. Maya Reed said, "It feels smaller without the fight," her voice soft. Noah Hale said, "Battles end, but wars wait," his stance unmoved. Lexi Carter said, "He wanted us to carry it forward," her sketchbook tucked under her arm. Daniel Brooks whispered, "I betrayed you once, but this place gave me a second name," shame woven into his tone. Maya touched the outline on the wall where their notes once hung, saying, Truth doesn't vanish, it changes its hiding place. Outside, traffic rumbled distant, life resuming indifferent. The sealed letter rested open on the table, creases sharp, ink fading but alive. Lexi said, "We'll remember him not by walls, but by what we build," and her words sparked something brighter. The church pews glowed under candlelight, shadows stretching like long memories. Maya Reed said, "He left me his truth, but truth costs blood," her eyes reflecting flame. Noah Hale said, "Blood paid is never wasted if it lights the way," his tone solemn. Lexi Carter laid her sketchbook open on the altar and whispered, "He lives in every line I draw," her voice breaking. Daniel Brooks said, "If redemption exists, it must be carved here," his hands folded tight. Maya pressed the letter beside the sketchbook, saying, "His words live beside our vows." The candles flickered violently as if answering. Outside, bells tolled, their sound cutting through the night like knives. Maya whispered, "We carry him forward, even when the world forgets," and the silence that followed felt sacred. The rooftop wind carried the city's restless pulse, lights flickering like nerves, alive. Maya Reed said, "Shadows never vanish, they just wait," her coat tugged by the breeze. Noah Hale said, "Then we keep moving, we don't let them settle," his eyes scanning skyline. Lexi Carter laughed faintly, saying, "He'd hate how serious we look," her voice carrying fragile joy. Daniel Brooks said, "He'd tell us to live louder than his silence," guilt softening into resolve. Maya pressed the letter to her chest, whispering, "He is here, in the fight, in the memory, in us." Below, sirens wailed, blending with city hum. The group stood together, silhouetted against neon glow. Maya said, "We stand because he fell, and we keep standing," her vow etched into night air. The final moment came not with thunder, but with a whisper. Maya Reed stood alone at the riverbank, dawn breaking soft gold over restless water. She said, "He never wanted statues, only memory," her voice quiet. The letter trembled in her hand, edges worn by every battle fought. She unfolded it one last time, reading silently, letting Aidan Reed's words etch deeper. Lexi Carter's laughter faintly echoed in her mind. Daniel Brooks' remorse pressed behind her. Noah Hale's vigilance anchored at her side, even in absence. Maya whispered, "We are more than shadows now," and the river carried her words away. She released the letter, paper drifting into current, ink bleeding into water. The sun climbed, burning mist into light. The world moved forward, but the memory clung, sharp and alive. The story did not end. It echoed, waiting for its next witness.